Hey guys, it's Aktane, and the time has come. We need to talk about Cygni. So as I understand it, I don't even know, maybe a couple of years ago, Konami held this contest where they were like, bring us your indie shmup, we're gonna co-sign it, you know, we'll give you some development support. Tom was like a little like, give us your best indie shmup sort of thing to the public, and Cygni ended up winning that. So Cygni was the shmup that Konami saw from all the footage and things like that, that would be their sort of co-sign. And it came out, and as a person in the shmup community, I've been in the shmup community for about 3 to 4 years. I've developed a small shmup. I think about game design quite a lot. I've been exploring these games for a while. I decided, well, let's play some Cygni. It's free on Epic Games, or at least it was at the time of recording this. And I decided to give this game a shot. And as I was going through the game, it was apparent to me that these developers don't play shoot-'em-ups. It's very clear and easy to see that with the amount of sort of, let's just say, disregard for a certain shmup formula. And then I came to understand that as they were developing this game, they did consult with people in the shmup community, you know, higher, you know, let's say like high visible people, and they asked some of them for feedback, and they were given some feedback, and they actually rejected certain types of feedback to make sure they made the game they wanted to make. And what I found out was, or at least what I think is, I don't think that the developers play shmups at all. Which is fine, you know? Make the game you want to make. If you don't play a specific genre and you want to make a game similar in that genre, go ahead. That's great. New blood is always going to be good. And then the reviews started coming out. And let me just say, it was clear that the reviewers don't play shmups either. So you have a development company that's not playing shmups, that's sort of rejecting the shmup formulas and any feedback from players. Not any, but some feedback from players. And then you have reviewers that clearly don't play shmups, saying things like, oh, it's a thoughtful rejection of the arcade shooting rulebook. It's an exceptional evolution. It's a modern take on Toho and Radiant Silvergun. You know, fans of Ikaruga and Radiant Silvergun will love, you know, will be familiar with this. Shmups only usually fire straight ahead. This one lets you aim the shots left and right. And I mean, look at all these reviews just mentioning Radiant Silvergun and Ikaruga as if there's not been any shmups since what? When did Ikaruga come out? 2001, 2002, something like that. Maybe a little later. As if the last 20 years we've had no shoot-'em-up games. And in fact, there's been a lot of shoot-'em-up games. And not only that, there's been a lot of smart people making shoot-'em-up games. So the way the developer responded to this was to say, well, we're not making a shoot-'em-up. We're making our own thing. This is our own thing. And I think everyone sort of took this to mean that they're going to improve on shoot-'em-ups. And you know, is the game truly an evolution or an innovation in the genre? Is the things that they chose, the things that they did, is this good? Is this good? Is this more fun for you? Did they rightfully reject feedback and create additional value to the, you know, to you as a gamer, as a casual, right? I believe that some of the feedback for this game from hardcore folks, I wouldn't consider myself hardcore. I mean, I have arguments with the shmup community all the time about games being too hard and all that kind of stuff. And I think that the feedback on this game, the things that I think this game doesn't really end up getting right, are things that have nothing to do with the difficulty of the game or you're a hardcore gamer or whatever. I think that they would actually make the game fun for casuals as well. Actually, I think, like, as I'm gonna go through this, we're gonna examine this thoughtful rejection of the arcade shooting rulebook, right? And we're gonna break down all the gameplay elements of this game. I'm gonna explain to you how this game works, and I want you to decide if you think this is better or worse than some of the shmups out there. I totally understand that you probably haven't played a lot of the shmups out there, and there's a ton on my channel. There's a bunch of games out there that, and I'll try to name some that do some of this stuff a bit better. And I'll give credit to Cygni where Cygni did new things or things that worked. I don't think it's really all bad. I do want to mention that out of all these reviews, which clearly no one here has played a shmup since Ikaruga, which I think is, you know, this is like, hey, a new jazz album comes out, and you're like, well, let me compare it to you know, Miles Davis's first album because that's the last thing I remember in jazz, as if no jazz music has come out. And then saying things like it's a thoughtful rejection of the arcade shooting rulebook. Think about that as like if that said, you know, Cygni, All Guns Blazing, whatever, a thoughtful rejection of the jazz rulebook. That's how you have to think about that. You have to understand what jazz is before you can say this is a rejection of that rulebook. And is that a good thing? Did that make it more fun for people? Is that making the game more fun? Or is it unnecessary complexity? We're going to talk about all of that. I want you to make up your own mind about it, but I will give you all the information that these reviewers are not telling you. They're not examining the game. They're not looking at game design. They're not thinking beyond. This is beautiful. Which, let's go off the bat and just talk about it and say the graphics in this game are fantastic. The graphics in this game are objectively, the style aside, the graphics in this game, the way it moves and animates, I think looks exceptional. Some of these explosions, I believe, are either procedurally generated or in some way generated with the smoke and fire that, like, I mean, it's beautiful to look at. That can't really be stated or understated or argued. Now, I'm not going to argue that the graphics are bad. That would be stupid. I mean, even if there's things in here that maybe from a graphics element standpoint, some of the reviews did say this, that it's a bit of a visual mess. It absolutely is. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to talk about graphics almost at all because I don't want you guys to think about graphics because that's the one thing that we can all say, like, yeah, it's had some good graphics, you know, in this game. Definitely good graphics. Oh, I do want to mention, before I go into this, there are a couple really good reviews on Steam, one by Zayrock and one by Meta Waddle-Doo. Meta Waddle-Doo is a developer of a recent shmup called Astral Gunners, which is amazing. It's an amazing example of what a shmup should be or could be. And he noticed that out of the 10 people on staff for Cygni, only 2 of them had the title of game designer, and they also had like 2 or 3 other titles. I noticed the same thing as well. So game design was obviously not a focus, and if you look at everything around the game design, it's clear all that stuff is incredibly high polished, so I'm sure there was a lot of pressure to get all this other stuff right. That's not related to the game design in and of itself. So let's start by understanding what is the goal of Cygni's gameplay. Like, what is Cygni trying to get you to do? When you look at, you know, gameplay or gameplay footage of this game, it's very clear that you can't dodge all this enemy fire. I mean, if you were to try to look at all the bullets here on screen, I mean, you can't even see half of them through the smoke and through the fire, like, and the other half are so fast that you'll never be able to really dodge them anyway. So it's clearly not designed for you to dodge every single bullet, which varies from typical shmups. Like, a typical shmup is going to want to at least give you that all the tools necessary to be able to dodge a bullet. And actually, that's how most action games are. Like, if you take like a Devil May Cry or a God of War or a Dark Souls, or you take, you know, any kind of like any kind of action game, Mega Man, whatever, they're designed in such a way that it is possible, and actually if you're skilled enough, that you can avoid all the bullets. The developers mentioned this is not a dodging game, so they don't want you to dodge all the bullets. And why might that be? I think the reason for that is really all about how this resource system is in place and what that actually amounts to, right? Because if you dodge all the bullets and you don't get hit at all, you don't have to interact with this entire mechanic of the game, the whole resource system, which is at the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to highlight it for you guys here. This is the resource system of Cygni, which we will talk about. This, I think, is what the game is. I think this is the entirety of Cygni, is this resource system, right? So let's first talk about, before we get into the resource system and all that kind of stuff, I want to talk about movement and weaponry, okay? I want to talk about movement and weaponry. I'm going to pause it here because this is really important to me. The movement in this game, okay, the way it moves is you start the ship, and the ship then accelerates to speed, and then when you let go of whatever button or stick you're using to move the ship immediately stops. So it accelerates to speed, and then it immediately stops. It goes slow to fast, stays at fast, and then immediately stops. It looks a little bit like this, okay? So in a what, I know you guys might not know this term, but Euro shmup, I don't really like the term, but the point is that there are shoot 'em ups or games with inertia, like Mario, for example, where you start moving, you get up to speed, and then if you let go of the button, you kind of slide a little bit, or you come down into speed. And then if you push the button again, you can sort of, in the middle of your slide, you can get speed again. Then there's like your archaic, regular shmup speed, where you can be either fast and direct, or slow and direct. You get a full control over your speed, and the directness of the speed is controlled by you, so you can position your ship wherever you want. You don't have to account for acceleration. You don't have to account. So for whatever reason, these devs decided to innovate and reject this very simple movement design, which, by the way, again, a character action game like a Devil May Cry or like a Dark Souls or whatever, they all have the same exact movement because direct movement gives you full control over your character. Something with acceleration like this gives you like almost no control because as soon as you're up to speed, you want to decelerate, but you can't. The only thing you can do is stop. And after you stop, you have to accelerate again. So you have this very choppy, really bad sense of movement. I don't know why they did this. I don't know why they thought this was revolutionary. I think it's just bad. I mean, it feels bad. You as a casual player, you would have a better time. I can guarantee you that you would have a better time with this game if it didn't have that acceleration in its movement. You can see it in my game footage. You can see me attempting to dodge things, and I almost can't because I go from too slow to too fast, right? Nowhere in between. And then once I'm too fast, if I want to just make a small adjustment, I can't, right? I have to go all the way to 0. Right? Because as soon as you release the key, you go all the way to 0. It feels to me tremendously bad. But do we care? Do we care if the movement is bad? Do you think better movement would be fun? Or do you guys like all the reviewers? Do you guys just like it and don't mind running into bullets here and there? I think that's fine. If you feel like 20% of the bullets should always just hit you, like if the game was designed with a goal in mind, which is that you're just supposed to get hit by stuff so that you can interact with this resource system. Okay, fair enough, right? Fair enough. That's a design choice. Is that a good design choice? I don't know. Do you think it should be designed in such a way that that you could avoid all the fire? By the way, if you do want to play traditional shmup or shmups that don't reject the arcade rulebook, there are ways to avoid everything. You can, and it's all skill-based. It's not like a guess. It's like, hey, I know how to do this. I know how to avoid every single bullet. You can. You don't have to. You can take some hits too, but you could do it. The other thing that's interesting is the weaponry in this game. So I don't think the main shot is interesting at all. I mean, yes, it curves left and right, but it's not usually enough for you to do what you need to do. I kind of wish it was a full twin stick. Like, if you take this boss, for example, I'm attempting to hit this boss with the curve of my weapon, and I can't, right? I can't do it. I'm like, it's not enough, right? It's not enough for me to get out of the way and also do damage. So it's one of those things that, like, okay, like, whatever on this 30 degrees, but the ground weapon, all right, I do find it to be pretty interesting. I think it's a good idea. Like, it's an interesting idea because the way it works is your ship stays the same, and I use, keyboard and mouse controls, so I'm actually just using my mouse to aim around, and I'm just like, all right, cool, I'm gonna aim around. I think that's a pretty neat idea. I think that, and we'll get into this later, but I think that the segments in which they give you this are not fun to play or dodge or do anything with, because remember, the movement is jacked. Look at me trying. Look at me attempting to move through bullets, and I can't do it. Also, this ground weapon is just so horribly weak. Even after you double upgrade it, it's just horribly weak. And most of the game where there's ground enemies, this is one good example. Of most games where there's ground enemies, there's also air enemies. And you can't air fire and ground fire at the same time. So they handicap themselves. They have this amazing idea for twin stick air ground shooting. I think you could make a really good shmup with this. If you had good movement, you could make like a shmup where you're dodging in the 3D plane on top and you're shooting stuff below you. If anything would die, like nothing is dying here, clearly. Like, it's, I mean, I don't know why the weapons are so underpowered. Actually, I do know why, because they want you to, this is their let's replay the game, but we'll get into all that in a second. So that's the movement and the weaponry. I think that you know, all of that is not revolutionary. This weapon is. It's innovative. It's interesting. I think it's used really poorly. One thing I want to talk about a little bit with the movement is what I call the wobble. All right, what is the wobble? The wobble is something that in the 90s, when Japanese developers, or even developers in general, took a game that was a vertical game and they brought it into a horizontal, like let's say it's a vertical game like Dodonpachi in the arcade. It's where the arcade would turn the screen sideways and you'd have the game be like portrait, like your phone, right? When they brought that home to like the Sega Saturn, they couldn't fit that whole thing on the screen with the resolution that they had. So what they did was they made it so you could only see the middle part of the screen, and going up or down scrolled the screen up or down, which is what Cygni does. Check this out. So you'll see as I move up, the screen, right, moves with me. And bullets, look at these bullets, okay? They actually will, okay, get obscured. They get obscured. As you go up, they go off the screen. And guess what? When you go back, they're still there. They can be off screen, and as you reverse, they will appear behind you. Wobble, universally regarded as bad design because it doesn't give you the tools to succeed. It doesn't help you dodge things in a way that makes sense. It hides things behind you just because you're moving your ship up, right? And then as you reverse, there's all this stuff back there that's happening outside of your view. That's like objectively not good design, and it's something that we figured out as shmup devs back in like the 90s. And look at that, all the bullets get obscured, right? And as I come back, they return, they come back to you. Wobble, please don't do this. This is not needed. You can scroll left to right, but there's no reason to scroll vertically. It doesn't help you. All it does is create this, it's a cool 3D effect, but at the cost of gameplay. You'll notice a running theme here. This entire game is a cool 3D effect at the cost of gameplay. The graphics are really good, but I think the movement is a little bit messed up for all the reasons I just mentioned. Okay, so that's the recap on movement. Oops, I didn't change this, so that should be movement. So let's discuss the resources. Let's discuss the resource loop and the way that works. This is the entire game of Cygni. This is how Cygni works, okay? The entire game of Cygni deals with these resources at the bottom of the screen, okay? So what happens is you've got shields here, and you've got weapon power here, okay? And every time one of these icons comes up, right? These little purple, these little, you know, let's get one out here so I can show you exactly how this works. All right, and why, and you can tell me again if it's good or bad. If this is good design or bad design, you tell me if this is fun or if it's unnecessarily complicated. Let's see here. I have no shields. I just died because when you have no shields, you die. I'm playing on easy, which means I have some lives, which is nice. All right, so let's talk about this. These are your shields. You get 6 of them. This is your power up, weapon power. You get 6 of those. When this is full, okay, you have full weapons power. All right? When you pick up these icons, they fill your shield. And only your shield. Right? So in this case, I have full weapons power. I'm going to pick up these icons, and they are going to fill this shield up. Right? And that's going to go up to 6. Okay? Let's see what happens. Okay, perfect. I think I may have gotten hit, but the point, there we go. So now I have full shields and full power. That is good. It's great, right? Wrong. Wrong. It's actually not great, and here's why. Because in order to use a missile, in order to use my secondary weapon ability, I have to sacrifice one of these shields. Sorry, not shields. I have to sacrifice one of these weapon powers, right? I have to get rid of that in order to use my missiles. So here, in the perfect state of perfection, they've designed the game such that you have to get rid of this if you want to do anything. So what I've done, you didn't even see me do it. because I did it so fast. Let's actually watch this in slow mo, because I might even need slow mo for this. Oh, there it went. Let me see if I can even catch myself doing it, because I'm doing it so fast. Okay, I have now hit the missiles button, and you can see that this is gone, right? And what I do right after hitting the missiles button to make sure that I have full power again is the thing that the game lets you do, which is you can transfer back and forth between the two. So what you end up doing is you immediately fire a missile, right, which gets rid of this, and then you take one of the blue guys and you bring it here. You every time, because why would you have shields? You're losing weapon power every time you do it, right? So now let's watch. Okay. Just remember, that's gonna go away, and this is gonna go here. See that? And then I'm gonna go pick up shields. I'm gonna hit the button, and I immediately, so on me it's a scroll wheel, so I'm gonna immediately hit fire, and then I'm gonna immediately move my shields over. I'm gonna do it constantly. And I have to do it constantly, because otherwise you're leaving DPS on the table. You are leaving strength on the table if you do it. You have to do this. You have to get rid of your power to do a missile, then immediately move this, and then pick up those icons, right? Those icons that are coming down to refill this. So why not just have these icons refill the orange? The developers will say, no. You can't do that, right? It makes sense. So why would the developers say you can't do that? Because when you get an icon and the shields are full, by the way, I learned this very late into my playthrough, you get currency. You get currency to spend on perma upgrades. I can't spell. Permanent upgrades. Right? So what they're basically saying to you as a gamer is, don't use your resources so that later, and keep it like this, pick up all these shields so that later, when you get back into the shop, you can buy more cool shit. Do not have your best run. Do not go out there and use your missiles and do everything I just said by grabbing your missiles. So now what they've done is they've taken this entire system that they built and destroyed it. Because you shouldn't be using it. You shouldn't be doing this. Why would you do this? You are handicapping yourself, right? It's gonna take you longer to power up your ship with the permanent upgrades. So all of this work is now gone for your first few playthroughs. Completely gone. Why would you do it? You want to keep all this stuff static and just pick up shields. Forget the missiles. Because you need to get to the best ship as fast as possible. The reason you need to get to the best ship as fast as possible is because, let's talk about difficulty. Because when you start this game up, and I don't know how the journalist didn't talk about this or whatever. If you start this game up on medium, which is the normal difficulty, and you start playing, nothing will die. Nothing will die. Nothing barely dies on easy. There's so many enemies that I leave alive, especially ground enemies, on easy. So they obviously don't want you to play on normal because it's whatever. And get this, if you fail a mission, you get nothing. You get nothing. If you fail a mission, you get absolutely nothing. So is this good risk reward? Is this smart? If you compare this to a recent shmup like Drainus, which just gives you currency to spend as you need to for playing your hardest, I didn't care about the system. I didn't care about the perma upgrades. I said, you know what? I'm using my missiles. You see me trying to toy around over here, trying to figure out how to use my missiles or whether I'm going to use my missiles. But is that a fun decision to make? Is it, sorry about the white screen, is it fun to not use your weapons to then be able to have fun later? Is that a good thing? Is this a thoughtful rejection of the arcade rulebook? I don't know. The way they design difficulty is your currency is the same across all of the difficulty. So you want to go to easy, you want to grind currency, you want to not use your weapons. Don't use these, okay? Don't use those. Just stay right here, right? Checkbox. Stay right here. Grab those. Boom. Get your currency, right? I think that's here if I want to say it correctly, but I can't understand this UI anyway, so screw it. And no fun. Don't do it. No fun allowed until you eat your Wheaties and you get all of your currency so that you can go upgrade your stuff so that you can enjoy the game, so that you can have enough power to go play on medium, to go play on hard, to have a good time. Is this good? Is this better than what we have in shmups today, which is just good old-fashioned, you know, hey, here's some currency, get some upgrades, use the weapons you have, we encourage you to use the weapons. The missiles are so fun, they look so cool, whizzing about the screen. I said screw it. I said no, I'm using the missiles. I'm using them all day. I'm using them all day. So, you know, I think, like, here's an example, and I think, like, designing difficulty in this game is a challenge, right? I don't think they've done it really well. Here's a great example of, like, I want to kill these guys down here. I want to enjoy, I keep hitting the wrong button. I'm so sorry, guys. I want to enjoy this game. I'm trying to enjoy this game and enjoy their cool ground laser that they built. But look, nothing dies. You have no firepower. Nothing is dying. I'm doing missiles. There's also these other enemies up top that are trying to shoot me down, and they're not giving me a chance to use their cool weapon at all. In fact, earlier, we're in that same stage right here, these are enemies below you, and yet you can't use the ground weapon. Why not? Why can't I zap all those fools? I got a ground weapon. They're below me. They're below me. You can't. You can't. He goes, bomb. Weapon disabled. Like, you can't even use it here. These guys are apparently above me or something. Or I'm supposed to use my lasers on them. I'm not sure why they made that weapon if they weren't going to let me use it. So that's difficulty, right? Let's talk. You decide. You decide if it's a good thing. Let's talk about level design. So, a lot of the reviewers said, hey, this game's short. The levels are short. These levels from shmup standards are pretty long. They're like 15 minutes, 9 to 15 minutes depending on level. But that's okay. That's great. That's 9 to 15 minutes of hardcore action, blowing up stuff. That's fine. I don't have an issue with 9 to 15 minute levels. What I have an issue with is when nothing happens in the level and you're fighting these same waves of enemies. Looks like my capture card was having all kinds of troubles here. I'm so sorry, but you're fighting these same waves of enemies over and over and over and over and over in the same formations over and over and over and over and over, still going, over. Oh yeah, I tried to use my ground laser there. They kind of let me use it, but it's not, nothing's getting shot, so I kind of gave up on it. And over again, and those are the same enemies, and over and over and over again. So this is cool. I like this set piece of like, hey, divide up the screen and have these two different elements. I mean, it's a shame that I have to like not play the game, as I said before, to even get my ship power-ups to even enjoy these, but I like the idea of this set piece. I'm attempting some dodging here, but I do think the levels overstay their welcome, and I don't think they offer anything interesting during that overstaying of the welcome. You don't have anything interesting to do. Like, you can't, you know, you can't use different weapons. You can't switch to a different weapon, really. I mean, yes, they have shots where you can switch, like, between a wide shot and a straight shot, but that's not that interesting. So they don't really give you much to do during some of these levels. I do find segments like this to be awesome. Again, the game looks amazing beautifully. I love segments like this. This is one of my favorite parts of the game, where you have a little bit of environmental hazards. These bullets are very dodgeable. it's pretty nice. You know, you have these glimpses of decent design and really, really beautiful visuals. And so, you know, the levels themselves are pretty much a shooting gallery. And no wonder the reviewers were comparing it to Space Invaders. But comparing this to Radiant Silvergun and Ikaruga is not even close. You got to keep in mind, Ikaruga is a 25-minute game, okay? Journalists, take heed, take note. Ikaruga is a 25-minute entire game, okay? Radiant Silvergun, which you compared this to, is a 35-minute full game. Now, granted, the Saturn mode of this is like an hour plus, but that's a different mode. But basically, in spirit, they are these games. This game, by the way, is more like a 90-minute, maybe. I mean, for me, it was like over 90 minutes, but let's just say 90-minute game. If you're comparing the level design of Ikaruga, which has a chaining system, polarity, specific scoring that you know exactly what you need to be doing at any given time to progress in the game. Radiant Silvergun, which also has chaining, which also has 7 different weapons for you to use and abuse, leveling them up. And you're comparing these 2 games with this? You're saying this is Radiant Silvergun and Ikaruga? In what way? Just do some research. Back your opinions up with something. Tell me what about this is close to those games. What about this is designed as tight as those games are? And if you're not going to comment on game design, that's fine. Just say, I don't care about if the game's any good. I just care about how it looks and how it feels zooming around when ignoring everything and, you know, just getting shields and switching my power. The way I played this game is I got shields, I shot missiles, I got shields, I shot missiles, I got shields, I shot missiles. That is the entirety of the game for me. I did not do anything much else. There's really no reason to dodge anything, so I really didn't dodge anything. Plus, the developers themselves said I'm not supposed to be dodging things, so I kind of give up on that. But there is one time where you do want to be dodging things, and that is during the boss fights. I think the boss fights in this game are visually awesome and full of great ideas, again, executed very poorly. So, like, this is a fantastic boss fight. Right? I think it looks cool. It's got great ideas with you're trapping, you know, you're trapping the player here. You're trapping them between these segments, and then you're going to have these turrets that rotate, right? Shoot at the player while they're trapped between this laser and these saws. That's cool. That's really neat. Of course, you guys told me your game's not about dodging, but, you know, it kind of is in these moments, right? It's supposed to be. Of course, what happens is, because of the movement, I think this is pretty funny how I just kind of got stuck, but because of the movement, your accelerative movement, I right there I had no choice. I couldn't dodge that because I can't make a movement like that, and I'm scared to move. Actually, right there, I kind of decided to just destroy the boss. It looks like I kind of gave up on the dodging, which you want to do. But the boss fights have an element of dodging. They start to expect you to start dodging things. But during the levels, they don't want you to dodge really anything because it's impossible to dodge. But then they have this beautiful boss fight, which has these cool lasers to me. You know, you're kind of trapping the player, and now you're expecting them to dodge this cool stuff. Like, this stuff's fairly... Look at me. I'm trying my best to dodge it. I'm attempting to tap dodge some of these things. You kind of can, but because the movement is so errant and so erratic, and they decide to reject the arcade rulebook, you can't dodge that stuff. No one is dodging that stuff. You can't. You can at best memorize some of it, and then just like use your shields in a meaningful way and try to kill things the way you can. But some of these patterns, you know, are not meant to be dodged. They're meant to be tanked. And remember, I think that they're meant to be tanked because I believe that, like, see, I dodged that pattern. Oh my god, I'm dodging. I'm dodging, guys. I'm dodging. I dodged there at the very end. It's hard. But my question is not, is it hard or is it easy? My question is that fun to have to wrestle with your ship? Is it fun? Is it good? You answer. You tell me, okay? I want to talk a little bit about replayability because, again, they mentioned Ikaruga, they mentioned Radiant Silvergun. Now, you have these very, very long stages, right? With these very, very long stages, hold up, let me just change this to, let's talk about replayability. Because the way they design replayability in this game is not oh, hey, I want to replay the stages again, and the reviewer is saying I go and respec my ship and create new shot types. Like, to do what, though? To do what exactly, right? Because until you get your upgrades, you can't really do much. You can't really do anything different. The thing that's missing here is true level design that differs. So what I mean that is most traditional shmups have things like medals in the environment, secrets in the environment. Like, I'm gonna shoot this guy and I'm gonna get like an extend, or I'm gonna get like a cool medal pop up letting me know from the developer, you did a good thing. You did what I wanted you to do. You found something neat. There's some hidden stuff. Like if you take Astral Gunners, for example, a shmup that recently came out, it has hidden 1-ups. You know, you take Mario, whatever. Like, it has these things in the levels you can interact with. You can save people. You can let them die. You can do all of these things that are worthy of the cinematic direction. But this is just a shooting gallery. There's nothing in the levels for you to do other than pick up these tokens and shoot things. So even if you respec your ship or do whatever else, you aren't going to be able to really do anything new. There aren't any weapons that are new or interesting. There isn't like a big laser or like missiles or other ship archetypes. I can't like get a big ship that has a big wide shot. I can't do anything that your typical upgrade path would let you do on most shmups, like in Draenus or like in Natsuki Chronicles, games that these reviewers are completely ignoring, where you have, in Natsuki Chronicles, you have hundreds, maybe not hundreds, you probably have 50, 60 different weapons, and you can spec your ship out with those weapons. Those weapons are interesting and different. Very, very different. I don't mean like shoot forward, shoot behind me. I mean like one weapon is a shield that can be shot out like a yo-yo. You know, in Astral Gunners, one of the weapons is a sword. You know, things that really give you an incentive to play the game again. Instead, what they did for replayability is they forced you to grind the game again so you can have more power, so you can feel more powerful. Which is fine. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But that's their idea of replayability. The bosses don't change. There aren't level routes. There isn't like a true boss. There isn't anything new that you won't get content-wise out of a playthrough on easy. Once you have played through this game on easy, you have played the entire game and it is done, basically. Oh, the homing shot. I actually don't even know what to think about the homing shot because I couldn't understand if it was better or worse than not using it. So sometimes I used it, sometimes I didn't. And so, you know, in truth, all right, I know this was a bit of a rant. In truth, I just feel like the shmup community really didn't get a chance to talk about this game. And I know you can say it's not a shmup, it's an action game. Dude, it scrolls upwards, you're shooting things. It's a shmup. This is a shmup. All the reviewers think it's a shmup. It's a shmup, okay? And whether you reject the arcade design rulebook or whether you don't or whatever, I just want you guys to know that there are shmups out there that do a lot of this stuff really, really well. And they haven't had the fortunate capability of having like these beautiful designers make an incredible Unreal Engine game. They are struggling with small tools, doing the stuff for the love of the game. And in our community, we really value game design. We really care about it. We want the game to be tight. We want the game to feel fair. We want the game to have true replayability. We want the game to be a visual spectacle, but we don't need it to just be a movie that you're barely playing. Do I think that's good for the genre? I don't care. I think Cygni's fine. Play Cygni. But I don't think that Cygni is in any way doing enough to be called innovative, to be called a rejection, a thoughtful rejection of the arcade rulebook. From a gameplay standpoint, I think Cygni is skin deep. I think the progression system is broken. And I think that the graphics are very good. And the sound is pretty decent. I have no comment on the music. Alright, so that's all I have to say on Cygni. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for watching. I just had to get that off my chest, so I hope it was useful for you guys. I hope it was useful for you devs, thinking about game design, thinking about resource loops, thinking about how to get people to do the thing that you want them to do to have fun with your game. And I hope you guys do better, honestly. Do better. All right, ciao.